Oh, that was fast. All I did, I hit stop. I'm using debut or debut, or whatever you want to call it. How you want to pronounce it? Debut video capture. Let me tell you, and I apologize for the audio in my Bolivar video where I'm smoking the Bolivar from Cuba. The audio was messed up, and I was video Windows Movie Maker on my Vista was screwed up. I can't edit. I can't do anything, so I have to go and download Windows Movie Maker 2.6 because my regular Vista Movie Maker won't work. But anyway, I digress. I am not in any way dissing any American soldier who went to war and fought for his government. The Revolutionary War, we fought for our freedom and our independence from the rule of Britain. We were under the thumb of the king, and I forget what his name was, but we were under the thumb of and rule of England, the King of England at the time, and we were just so sick up and fed with his taxing this, taxing that. Everything had to have a tax on it that he got. And I'm not going to repeat American history. You know the story. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and all those guys back in those days did what they had to do to make sure that the American people prospered without a central bank. And I'm not going to get into that. You know where I stand on central banks. And we won our independence. So let's jump ahead to the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln did not want to fight that war, but we were forced to fight that war because Britain went to the South and said, you need the right to keep your slaves. You need to separate from the Union. And Abraham Lincoln knew that that would cause a big uprising, a big disturbance in the country. And mainly what he wanted to get away from was the influence of Britain on our country and get back to what the Constitution said. He was a constitutionalist and he was a Republican, but I believe probably more of a libertarian if that word had existed back in those days. Sort of like me. I'm a libertarian. I'll make no bones about it. A lot of men died in that war. Then we scoot forward to World War I, that never should have been a war. World War II, that should never have happened because they wanted to make sure that no wars ever took place after World War I. And like I say, I'm not going to diss any American soldier who went and fought for their country. I am going to diss the leaders of the countries who started all these wars, along with the central banks who financed them and made a profit off both sides. I'm watching Kelly's Heroes last night, and they were and it was probably fictional, but it was much like probably what it really was like in the World War II. My dad fought World War II. Very rarely talked about it. It was kind of hard to get anything out of him. But they were just run ragged. They were being fired on by their own people. They were being fired on by the German army and the American army and another bunch of people, the Chinese or Japanese, I think it was. And they were just being barraged. And finally they get away, and the captain or whoever the main guy is says, take 3 days off and relax. relax and rest here while I go and take this yacht to Paris. Well, in the meantime, Clint Eastwood discovers that there's a bank in this little German town with $16 million worth of gold bars. Their motivation to go 30 miles behind enemy lines was that money. They thought, and even some of them made the statement in the movie, we've risked our lives for this. Why not something that we may get something out of? Okay, fast forward. Their main guy was Carol O'Connor's character, who smoked a green cigar. And I've never tried those. I might have to try one time. But anyway, he finds out this. He hears these guys on the radio, and he says, "Man, these are some soldiers. Where did they get their enthusiasm? That's what we want. Now I'm back in the war. I'm back in the war." And he's in some German colonel's house, living there, And I'm thinking, here's him, one of the big guys. He's not the guy who started the war, but he's fighting the war in the luxury of someone else's mansion, while the actual soldiers are out doing the real fighting and dying. And it was a movie, I understand, but it just reminded me how our politicians fight these wars with suits and ties on in their public office. And the people who do the real fighting and dying, and just to see how inhumane they can be to another human being, are the ones out doing the foot soldier work and the fighting and killing and the dying in wars. I'm at 7 minutes. The fighting and dying and killing in these wars, okay? So I'm thinking, these wars were put together by these politicians who can't sit down and talk it out. Hitler was a very bad man, and there's the one scene where they finally go into town and they take the bank, and the town is happy. They've been liberated. Okay. Great. They've been liberated from the evil of the Nazis. Okay. By us. So maybe it was a good thing that we fought that war, but we weren't fighting for our freedom. We were fighting for their freedom because a tyrannical maniac took over their country. And all you Hitler fans, I don't care. Hitler was a tyrannical maniac. I'm in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm going to take another short break. We'll finish this up hopefully in part 3, but if not, I'll go to part 4. Be right back. Smoking Cigars with Howlinblind, Money Slim.